Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you guys are all doing great. As you guys can see, we have moved our time from Saturday to Tuesday. We figured that a lot of people are busy necessarily on the weekends, and they may or may not have time. So I'm excited that Eric can actually join us because this time works out well for him as well. So we're going to have a really interesting topic right now because we're seeing this happening more and more. And it's not just in California, this is across the country, which is homeowners are now getting defrauded because they're hoping that they can put in an ADU in the back, a tiny home. And literally, these developers are running off with their money. And some of the stories that we're going to share with you guys today is so sad. Like there was this one lady, oh my gosh, elderly, trying to help a special needs person, and the contractor basically defrauded her of her life savings. So Eric, I'm going to toss this to you.
Yes, Scott.
And you're going to be like, I'm the lawyer. I told you so. But
that's what I do best. That's what I do best.
Yeah. The truth is that
they pay me a lot of money because I can say I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. And you should have listened to me. But the thing is not everyone necessarily knows about it, right? And so this is why we do this, is so that we can educate people. And we're hoping the people watching, if they're not watching with us live right now, at least they're watching it so that later, so that they can get some really good information. So let me share real quick, Eric, this story, and then I'll let you jump in afterwards. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, give me 1 second. Why am I not able to add to the screen?
Thousands of dollars for tiny homes that were never delivered.
As CBS 8's David Gofferson reports, the tiny house company has now filed for bankruptcy.
They showed us pictures of things they've done, and it looked really nice.
Megan and Wyatt Borkland plan to build a tiny house in his parents' backyard in Hamul. They contacted the tiny house company in Vista and made a $20,000 down payment after meeting in person with the CEO, David Flake.
The first time we met Dave, we were telling him that we were having a kid, and he was nice. He was telling us about his kid, how he has grandkids.
But it wasn't until the couple says they made a second payment of $50,000 that they started to see red flags.
We had asked for progress pictures and videos just to, know that things are being done, and nothing would be done for weeks. And we kept getting excuses after excuses.
Last month, they got a text saying the company had filed for bankruptcy. They were left high and dry with nothing to show for their $70,000 investment.
We've talked to 2 or 3 lawyers, and they just tell us there's not really a chance we'll get all of our money back. They say we might get a little bit back, and pretty much there's not a chance we're going to get the house.
And as it turns out, they are not alone.
I gave the tiny house company over $64,000 to build me a home. Now the owner hasn't given me back my money, and the builder took my home.
Carolyn Silva and her husband Jonathan signed a contract with Tiny House Company last year. In May, they filed a lawsuit.
Not only are we suing for breach of contract, but we're also suing for fraud.
Carolyn started posting on social media about the Tiny House Company and its CEO, David Flake.
Like I mentioned before, we made a website, davidflake.com.
Court records show Flake is involved in an ongoing lawsuit with his former business partner over the tiny.
Okay, I have one more that I want to share with you, Eric, before we jump into having a conversation about this.
Okay.
Because this is the other
goal. Because in order for that to happen,
Colton Paulus has been very difficult to reach, and many people want to talk to him. Customers, employees, contractors, and several hard money lenders to whom he owes money.
I'm deaf with cochlear implants and a teacher of the deaf in Hayward.
After more than 20 years of teaching, Margot Simpson is planning for retirement. And to make some extra money, she thought she had a perfect spot for an ADU, or accessory dwelling unit.
I have a 1,000-square-foot house on a 10,000-square-foot lot.
She wanted to move a renter from her spare bedroom to the ADU to make space for one of her students she is fostering. Margot hired Anchored Tiny Homes to build the ADU and gave them $28,000 to start, but it's all gone.
Well, it's my retirement.
Their offices in Fair Oaks closed before she could even break ground. Last week, I spotted tiny home plans sitting on the floor and missed delivery notices at the door. Where's your foster daughter staying now? She's staying in your bedroom?
She stays in my bedroom. I sleep here.
On the chair?
In the chair. And that's fine. But the ADU was supposed to solve that.
Margot says she felt...
So, yeah, very sad stories, right? People getting defrauded. Just curiosity.
Well,
what's your thought, Eric?
Okay, so those are two separate cases. You know, you have one company called Tiny Homes, and you got another called Anchored Tiny Homes. I just want to be clear for the viewers; these are two cases. And interesting enough, I've actually gotten calls regarding both cases, and I've talked to both companies, correct? Both companies about this, and this is just part of the risks. And this is, as a consumer, and you want to be building an ADU or engaging in contractors to do home improvement, there's going to be a risk that the person you hire takes your money and disappears. Or in these type of cases, they're saying that, well, we're filing bankruptcy because we ran out of money, right? Whether or not they can claim, oh, we didn't really defraud him, this was not our intention to take people's money, versus, you know, we just went out of business because we're just bad business people, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of contractors, right? And construction companies and things like that. I mean, they don't necessarily have the same situation. I mean, like, I understand what your point and your argument that you make is, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is a new part of the scam that's, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like it's kind of the new part of the scam because the state of California recently made the regulations for these type of additional dwelling units and tiny homes significantly more lenient. And, you know, these predators are now having an opportunity to come out.
Right. You make a very good point, actually. And this relates back to a previous live show that we did on, you know, how California has loosened the regulations for building and constructing, right? When the government loosens certain regulations in certain sections of the industry, of certain industries, that creates a business opportunity, right? And you have people that come in to say, hey, you know, we got a demand here and we're going to supply these services. In this case, both companies was in the building ADU because local governments have now loosened restrictions on getting permitting and building these ADUs, right? But then there's a con to all of that, right? Because, you know, as we discussed in the other show, that theoretically, yes, we're going to have higher density housing and stuff like that and lower the cost. Though, again, I think the end result is this benefits more in terms of real estate investors and the companies that are involved in, you know, building ADUs. Yes. Right. And then so now we get stories like this there, which is indicative of, you know, companies that took advantage of a business opportunity, whether or not they're trying to defraud or they're just best business people, but ultimately consumers end up getting hurt because of, you know, these type of shady practices.
Yeah. Like one guy, I guess he was in the story, at least, he was basically in a lawsuit separately from, you know, with his partner. And so like the homeowner probably wasn't even aware of this potential conflict
Correct.
when they went into the contract with them.
Right. And consumers need to, and your viewers need to understand that, again, you're engaging in a business transaction. In any business transaction that you engage in, there's always going to be a risk that the other party, right, doesn't perform, whether it's because they go out of business or whether or not they had intentionally defrauded you or some, internal business disputes. And ultimately, unfortunately, the consumer in these cases gets screwed. They paid money and they didn't get a house, right? And now these companies filed bankruptcy. And as a result, it's now the consumer has to go through the bankruptcy process. And as the company gets liquidated, all they're going to be left with for the consumer is whatever is left over of this company, right? Is that going to be enough?
Zero, right?
Could be zero, right? Could be zero. And it's just one of those dangers of this industry and as part of real estate. It's a risk that a lot of people need to understand and be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, buyer always has to beware, right? And this is where making sure you do your due diligence, doing some research before you hire these people, right? You and I both know about CSLB, so we're going to talk about that a little bit and how to actually do the research for these companies to make sure that they are licensed, and not just licensed, but licensed in the correct classification of their thing. Because I see way too often where contractors might have a B, not a B license. They might have like a specialty license, like a C license for electrical, and they're doing framing, drywall, and like all these other things that are outside of their classification for licenses. But the homeowner is not aware that this contractor is technically working outside their allowed trade.
Yeah,
right?
You bring up very good points. Okay, so we mentioned that there's risk. Okay, so how, as a consumer, if I'm going to be buying my first house, I want to build an ADU or do a kitchen remodel, how do I go about protecting myself so I don't end up in a situation where someone takes my money and I get nothing, right? And Scott, you bring up CSLB, and I want all viewers to know what this stands for: Contractors State License Board. Okay, CSLB.
What do they do? What's their job?
Okay, they are the governing body that issues licenses for contractors, and they oversee contractors.
Okay.
And they also protect consumers and make sure that consumers are not harmed by contractors.
Okay. So their role is a government agency that basically manages these contractors and makes sure that these contractors are doing what is required by law. Is
correct? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So they have a website just like any government agency. It's cslb.ca.gov. Okay.
Can you say that one more time for the audience?
Yes. C as in cat, S as in Sam, L as in lollipop, B as in boy, .ca, cat, apple.gov, G-O-V.
All right. I'm going to have Eli put the website on the screen and then keep going, Eric.
All right. So first thing you do whenever you engage in someone that you think they could be potentially someone you use to do a home improvement project is ask to see if they have a license number. Okay. They need to be a license. Now, California is this law, okay? And it's actually recently changed, is that any work, home improvement work above $1,000, they have to be a licensed contractor. Anything underneath, they can be as what we call handymans, all right? Simple things as, changing out some fixtures and stuff like that. So under $1,000, they don't need to be technically licensed. Above $1,000, they absolutely need to be licensed, all right? So any work that home improvement project, so you they give you your license number, all right? The CSLB website, they have a tab for consumers where you can go and type in the license number to verify. And then when you verify and click verify, they will have the contractor's profile that shows up with the company name, address, bond information. I'll get to what the bond information is. and then they have any prior complaints. All right. They also have their license classification. All right.
Okay.
So Scott, you mentioned something about, you've recently seen a lot of contractors work outside of trade. So contractors need to be properly licensed, right? A plumber that's licensed for a plumber cannot be working on electric work. Okay. They need to be then separately licensed for being an electrician. Okay. Same with general contractors. And this is something that a lot of people misunderstand is general contractors, okay, they actually, if you look at their classification, is only allowed to work on drywall and I think framing and drywall.
Yeah.
That means if they take on a home improvement project that requires other trades, they need to subcontract out the work. I mean, they need to find a separate plumber to do the plumbing. They need to find an electrician to do the electrician stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So don't assume that you hire a general contractor and they're going to just be doing everything. Okay. They cannot do that, nor do you want them to do it because they are not licensed to do plumbing work or electrical work. Okay.
Yep. Very good point. Keep going.
All right. So once you figure all that out, they have their profile, they're properly licensed. All right. Now, what Scott is showing on the screen right now is actually what CSLB has published out for the consumers to take a look at. This is €4. We pay tax dollars for them to create this, so utilize it. All right.
And we'll put a link to this in the video description.
Right. Utilize this because this is the foundation on how to protect yourself when you engage in a contractor. Okay. At some point, there's going to be a contract that's involved. All right. Please do not hire a contractor without a contract. Okay. I don't know how you need to have a written contract. All right. To define the scope of work. All right. And this document explains very explicitly what is allowed and what isn't allowed. All right.
Yes.
California law, okay, and I see too many people get into this trouble, okay, is when contractor says, oh, I need a $10,000 down payment to get started on this work. That's a red flag. California law restricts home improvement property down payments to $1,000. And it says in big bold letters, there are no exceptions for special order materials. So if your contractor tells you, oh, well, it's $10,000 because I got to order the materials. Okay, that's a red flag. The down payment is $1,000. And there's something called what we call progress payments. And progress payments is basically the contract needs to detail exactly when payments are supposed to be made, and that payments are supposed to be made for work that has been already completed.
Yes,
California law,
not paying advance, right?
Correct. There is no advance payments for work not already done is against California law. And I see too many people call me and they said this contractor took $30,000 and they did nothing. Then I asked, why did you pay them then? Because they wanted up front. And then I said, well, unfortunately, I can't. I mean, at that point, it's like, well, you already paid the money, right? Now you got to go chase after the money, right? And this is why there's laws here that protects consumers. But the consumer also has to know where to find the information. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Contact the state licensing board, people.
All right. Okay. Or call me. All right, but I'm already really overwhelmed with a lot of work. All right. Bottom line is, all right, we have these documents. You gotta have scheduled payments that really reflect that, work for payment for only work that's been completed. All right, down payment is restricted to $1,000. All right, that is the number one thing that I see in terms of why people get into big problems, and that refers back to every single person in those previous videos that said, I paid a contractor $28,000 and I didn't get anything. That's a big red flag. Okay.
Yeah. One lady paid $64,000. Oh my God.
Okay. So these things need to, and I understand there were instances where in those videos they say, well, they did send some photos of things that being done. All right. So this is another thing that I warn people about. All right. Okay. You need to manage your contractor. You
Yep.
need to be the one that also actually goes to the property itself.
Yep.
Okay. And this is, I see actually a lot of investors fall into this, out of state investors that invest in out of state, right? They're not physically there and they just trust whatever contractor, and they're taking, contractors take pictures, pictures can be modified very easily, right?
Yep.
And I hear horror stories all the time. It's like, I invested out of state. This contractor was referred to me,
Yep.
and I paid him a whole bunch of money, and then nothing got done, and now they disappeared.
Yep.
And I'm like, did you actually go to the property? Oh no, they just sent some videos and some photos. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
all right. Well, look, you need to protect your own investments. All right. You need to be physically there managing these contractors, overseeing what they're doing to make sure they are doing the work as what you have, agreed to.
Yep.
Otherwise, fire them. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Done. All right. Move on. All right.
Yeah. Because the thing is you can theoretically sue them to try to get recourse, but we all know people, like, one, it's a pain, but two, it's like, if they're broke, right, you're not going to get money from them.
Right. So there's another thing that I alluded to in my previous, was the bond in the profile. And I want to explain to the viewers what this bond is. All contractors, they have to put up a bond. Essentially, it's their own money that they hold as security to make sure that, they will perform and complete whatever work they agreed to, right? So in the event of a dispute with the contractor, I always say there's three things that you can do as a homeowner. Okay. You can file a complaint with the Contractor State License Board. If you go to their website, they have a tab for consumers to file a complaint. All right. If you file a complaint, it goes through their internal processing to go through they sometimes do an investigation. The second thing you could do is you can file a claim with their bond. Okay? The bond is like fairly similar to like an insurance. Basically, they come out and verify information, and if they say that the contractor didn't do the work as agreed to, they can use that money to compensate the homeowner. Fortunately, sometimes, go ahead.
So for those who are not aware, this bond is not like a large amount of money.
No.
So if you gave them $64,000, chances are this bond's not going to cover it. Most of these bonds are like $10,000 to $15,000.
Correct, $15,000 to about $25,000, and then in instances where a company goes bankrupt, right? Everyone's trying to capture that bond money, correct, and there's really not that much to go around. Okay,
correct.
And then the last thing is certainly,
that's not all. That's not the only. That recourse may not be the best recourse for you either.
Right. Third is basically filing a lawsuit, right? If it's a minor amount, you can go through small claims court, which the maximum is $12,500 in the state of California. Anything above that, you may want to have to hire an attorney, right? And that's more expenses that you got to consider.
Yeah, they have to call you at that point.
All right. So unfortunately, when you're in the third option, means you're chasing after someone for money. Chasing after someone for money is very difficult. Okay. Because you got to go through a legal process to be able to get a judgment, to be able to say that person legally owes me that money. And in these past videos that you showed, they all filed bankruptcy, right?
Yep.
And, absent any evidence of fraud or anything, oftentimes through bankruptcy, all the debt is discharged and all the creditors are left essentially with zero.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why it's very important to understand what the laws are that protects consumers, and that consumers are aware of these laws and know where to find these resources. That's why what Scott has posted is a very important. And then look, at the end of that pamphlet is just a checklist. It's a very simple checklist. You want to scroll down to the end of it. All right.
Sure.
The end of it, homeowner checklist right here. You just need to look at the contract to see if the contract has these elements in it, right? And if it doesn't, or if the contractor is unwilling to provide you with a compliant contract for home improvement, don't use them. Okay. I don't care if their price is lower than everyone else. There's a reason why their price is lower than everyone else, right?
Yep.
So
So let
that's
me
my
ask you.
feel.
Yeah, no, you know what? I appreciate you getting on the soapbox, because I think people sometimes feel that it can't happen to me. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, that won't happen to me. Or like, oh, I got introduced to this person and they're good, or something like that. The reality of it is it doesn't happen to you until it happens, right? And then at that point, you're the one that has been defrauded. You're the one that has been the victim. So please be careful. I mean, I cannot stress how important it is for what Eric has been sharing with you. It will save you so much headache, right? Forget the money component of it, just the headache alone, right? So let me ask you, Eric, I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say, right, there's insurance. Obviously, the contractor has the ability to have insurance, and you want to check to make sure they have insurance in case something
Yes.
happens.
Mhm.
However, is there any type of insurance policy that the homeowner can get relief from, like these situations where these people are like this that got defrauded?
You can buy insurance. A homeowner, you can buy insurance in the event to just add added coverage. A lot of times I don't see it happen. I see it on like much larger projects,
Okay.
um, like big like skyscraper type of projects where there is a risk that the contractor that they're using might go out of business or something like that. Because there is a lot of risk on both sides in these type of construction projects. But in terms of residential,
Yeah.
I seldomly see homeowners buy added insurance to protect them, to compensate the homeowner in the event the contractor either abandons the job or doesn't finish the job.
So theoretically, I mean, I'm just suggesting this, and I don't know what your thought is couldn't you make the
Contractor pay
contractor
for it?
pay
Yeah,
for it,
yeah.
right?
Theoretically, yes. You can say, hey, Mr. Contractor, I
You run
believe
my
you and all
business.
that, but I need insurance that you're going to finish this project. So I'm going to have you pay a premium on this insurance policy. Will you agree to it? I mean,
Yeah.
he says, okay, no problem. Then, all right, great. All right.
Well, I mean, if they say no, then you're like, okay, well, do I want to personally become the insurance carrier, basically? Because that's literally what it becomes.
Practically speaking, it's just not likely
Okay.
a contractor is going to agree to something, and it just adds another layer of complexity to getting getting an agreement going. Right.
Yeah.
I do home improvement stuff. I've never actually utilized one of those insurance policies before. It's
Okay.
just not something. It's not necessary, because if you adhere to a strict progress payment, all right. If say after the plumbing work, the contractor just ghosts you, that's fine, because you've only paid them up through plumbing, right?
Yes.
So it's not like, and you just find another contractor to take over the project to finish the project, right? Now you can theoretically sue them for any additional out-of-pocket costs because of that, but at that point, your main goal is to basically just finish the project. I guess, I mean, if it's a substantial amount, sure, you can have a policy in place to compensate you for that added cost of if a contractor was to abandon the work.
I mean, like the stories that we heard, I mean, they are 70,000, 64,000. I mean, that's pretty substantial.
It is substantial, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
But
losing
a
70,000.
premium, an insurance company that's going to write an insurance policy for this kind of things is going to also look at what the risk is of this company potentially collapsing in the middle of this project, right?
Yeah.
These are small companies, and you got to know how these companies work, right?
Yeah.
They basically are project by project, these type of things, right? And I don't know if the videos that you show goes into depth about how Anchor Tiny Homes, what they did.
Yeah.
But essentially, a lot of the money is basically coming in, but going right out to pay labor, material, and all that, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if all of a sudden there's a stoppage in work, the business model basically collapses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I've done contract work before with others, and the thing is the margins that these contractors are working with, realistically, it's not fat. You know what I mean? You make a mistake as a contractor, your margin is gone. And then at that point, they're like, well, I'm going to lose money on this job anyway. So they abandoned. And so
Yeah.
that happens a lot. That does happen. I've seen that happen. So you gave us this, basically it's like before you hiring a contractor, right? So this is a pamphlet that the CSLB gives on their website. So go to their website, download the pamphlet, take a look at it, read it carefully. And when you hire the contractor, if they're like, no, that's not how it's done, you can pull out these pamphlets and go, here you go. Have you ever read this?
Right. And I want to let viewers know, look, your contractor, whoever you hire, could be the best contractor. They did great tiling work or they did great flooring, and they're not 100%, adhering to California law. They're not lawyers, right? I don't think to get a license requires you to understand these laws. I don't know. Maybe they ask, but I'd be surprised, right?
Yes.
So, and I do have, and I work personally with contractors who literally just sends me like an invoice with, a statement saying this is how much I cost. And I'm like, fine, here's the money. And they do a great job, right?
Yes.
That's because I built up that trust, right? I've worked with them. I know who they are. I fund all their project, I give them business, right?
Yeah.
And so we have that. But this pamphlet is really there for those homeowners who are not constantly in this business, and it's just out there. Oh, I want to do a kitchen remodel, and I want to protect myself, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you should really follow the checklist. You should get 3 quotes, right, from reputable contractors, licensed, all right. Look up on Yelp, look on BBB, with the internet age, it's so easy to find information, right? You can find other people who have used these people and they will tell you, right? Whether or not they did a good job or not, right?
Correct.
Yelp
And the
is
thing
great.
is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Like I said, Yelp is a great resource. I
Yeah.
sometimes use Yelp to find contractors.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, for those who are watching here in San Diego, if you're not sure, go to a reputable real estate agent like myself, right? Because I work with contractors, I know who they are, so I can definitely be a source because I do that for my own clients. So
Correct. But again, I caution viewers, don't just take someone's referral and say, all right, this is all going to be, still do your due diligence. Okay. Because I have also been in cases where, oh, this was a referral by my agent and he turned out to be like some scam artist. All right.
yeah. Well, I mean, that can theoretically happen because, but I will stand by the people I recommend because again, it's like you said, we have a relationship with them and we've used them numerous times and they've never let us down. And so, yeah. Anyways, continuing forward. So you've given us some great advice. Let's just say somebody that is watching this video right now, they're stuck in the situation that these people find themselves in. What would you recommend their next steps be, other than probably talking to a lawyer, right?
Well, it sounds like they all talked to a lawyer, at least based on what they're telling, and all the lawyers said there's really nothing much you can do, right?
So what does that mean?
Well, truth be told, that there's, aside from what the 3 options that I pointed out, filing complaints, right, going after the bond, or filing a lawsuit, there's there's really nothing much outside of that, right? You can send more complaints to like different, like the attorney general office, and hopefully the government at some point, will, file some criminal charges and there's some sort of restitution that's supposed to be made to all the homeowners, right?
Yeah.
But what you as a homeowner can proactively do at this point is very limited unless you're willing to engage an attorney to file a lawsuit, right? One person in the video, as she did engage an attorney, is filing a lawsuit, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I feel for them, but I almost feel like even if she engaged in hiring an attorney to sue this builder, she's probably not going to get much out of it either. I mean, would you agree?
Not if the builder has filed bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
Now there's other non-legal routes that a lot of consumers can take. Like I've basically told them the realities then, but I also have suggested some people who've called that, hey, report it to your local news agency, right? Or they're like social media is and again, some of the videos were shown was posted on social media about warning other consumers about, this thing is happening.
Yes.
Right? When you publicize something like this, it puts pressure on potentially your local government or legislature representative to act and potentially pass more laws that protect consumers to prevent these type of happenings, right? Or potentially the local DA or some, prosecutor looking at this will actually use the resources to, go after the people who have scammed. Right? Because what viewers have to understand how to get the government to do things is when a lot of people are affected by it, then the government is either pressured or more willing to spend taxpayer dollars to go after them. All right. Again, it's all business. All right. You guys have to understand, the government has limited resources. The government can't be tackling each person's, fraud accusations. Okay. But if a lot of people have voiced and publicized it on social media, Facebook, it's on the local news, that adds more pressure on the government to do something.
Yeah. I'm curious because do you know if most people's home insurance policy covers something like this? Like, let's say you bought a home, you have homeowners insurance, right? I wonder, we should bring an insurance agent on this show because I wonder if you can file, because like there are situations where homeowners insurance, if somebody breaks into your house and steals everything, there is insurance that will cover that. Right?
I don't think there is insurance coverage for a contractor abandoning a job.
Yeah.
There might be coverage in terms of if the contractor was negligent and maybe burned down the house, and then the insurance company would do something called a subrogation claim against the contractor's insurance policy, right? Assuming they have general liability insurance, right?
Yeah.
Which brings to a point, another thing that people concern, make sure they have general liability insurance as well as worker comp. Okay?
Yes. Workers comp is probably the biggest thing that they cut. I'll tell you that right now.
The number of times I've received calls from someone saying that they're getting sued by someone for alleging some sort of workers' comp claim against the homeowner. I'm like, okay, because the person you hired didn't have workers' compensation insurance.
Yes. There was one time, I'll share a story. It was really interesting. A friend who was a contractor of mine, he was a contractor, and he hired a group of workers under him, and his job started getting less and less. So he was basically kind of not needing them. So these workers went and worked for another guy, and the guy said he was licensed, insured, everything, but he didn't have workers' comp. And so what happened was, here's the story. The guy was using a skill saw, and the skill saw was getting dull. And the owner, the worker called his boss and said, "Hey, I need a new saw blade." The boss responds, and I know the whole story because I'm friends with these people, and they were like, "Yes, I know. I'm busy right now. Let me run to Home Depot to get you the saw, but in the meantime, keep using the saw that you have, the blade." Right? It was already dull, so he's using the skill saw and he's cutting wood, 2x4s. And what happened was, because the saw was dull, it kicked and it sliced his hand down the middle. and 3 of his fingers disappeared, right? And it only the index fingers was left. They rushed him to the hospital, and long story short, his boss, who was the contractor, didn't have workers' comp. The guy basically lost his business. So make sure you check for that.
Yes.
The thing is the owner of the property could have been liable as well. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm a plaintiff's attorney, I'm going to sue anyone that I think might have a responsibility. Okay. And this is what plaintiff's attorneys do. They sue. And they sue knowing that either your insurance company is going to kick in to try to pay some money to make this go away, or you're going to be retaining an attorney and paying a lot of money to try to make this go away.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
They
And
use that as more leverage. Not necessarily they may have a strong case against you. They use the judicial system and the economics behind the judicial system to, try to get some money from the homeowner.
Yeah.
Right? This is just how, lawyers work. All right. We make money by suing people.
You just didn't give yourself a very good reputation.
What? I'm being realistic, okay? I've been in this business for how long already? I'll keep it straight with all your viewers, all right? Right?
I love it. I love
when
how
someone gets sued, they need to hire an attorney, and attorney gets paid. That's how I'm on the defense side. I get made money when someone gets sued, right? And plaintiff's attorneys make money by suing people.
Yes. You've done both. Yeah. But see, I mean, so this is like the reason why we do these stories is we want to make sure that you guys are aware, right? Be smart. Don't become a victim. It's you think that you hire somebody and they're in capable hands and you leave it alone and you don't pay attention. Like Eric says, you have to watch your contractors, right? And you got to pay attention. You can't just walk away and think that everything is going to be fine, because if you do and something happens, it can come back on you. So this is what it's really important. And then if it doesn't feel right, we all have gut instincts, right? That feeling. If it doesn't feel right, trust your gut. So that's our advice to you. Is there anything else that you would suggest homeowners who are possibly thinking of building ADUs or tiny homes like this in their backyard? What else could they do just in case so that they don't become victims? Or have we covered everything? We could have.
I guess talk to an attorney.
All right. So basically what Eric is saying is call him. If you have any questions, call him. And then he will help you, and he'll tell you if you're screwed and there's nothing he can do to help you because it's too late. So call him before they get to that point.
No, it's really, as a consumer, you just have to be really mindful of this. And then unfortunately, a lot of these stories are usually where people, right, are too trustworthy, or they don't have the means or understand that there are these resources, right? And I'm surprised at how many people they call me and said, hey, did you verify their license on the contractor state license board? And they're like, what board?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I don't know. It's either the state of California needs to do a better job marketing, that there are these agencies out there that, that we can utilize as consumers, that, whether they publish resources or they have a process to try to, resolve these type of disputes.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I mean, that's I guess that's just my parting words with the viewers. Right?
No, that's great. So if anyone has any questions about real estate, even if you're not here in San Diego, reach out. We're going to drop a little ticker right now. I'm going to have my Eli drop a little ticker to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you're here in San Diego and you're thinking about, either adding an ADU or working on, buying or selling a home, reach out to me. The website is findyourhomesandiego.com. /contact, and I will be happy to jump on a call with you. There is no obligations. There's no cost. I just want to try to be a resource. And if I don't have the answer for you, I'll put you in touch with somebody who will. And if you need to sue somebody like this tiny home company, let us know. I'll introduce you to Eric.
No. I will be very straightforward. There's really nothing much. I mean, look, you can pay me a lot of money to sue someone, but I will keep it real with anyone that calls me. The likelihood of you seeing a return on what you spend on me is probably not. All right. So
yeah. And I'll tell you, of all the lawyers I know, Eric is one of the few that I tease him about this, because sometimes I'm like, dude, Eric, you're so direct with your clients. Like it's just almost to the point of like, look, there's nothing I can do for you, so don't waste your money. whereas there's other attorneys might be like, okay, well, let me charge you a few hours first.
Look, I have been in this business as a lawyer doing this type of work for a very long time. All right. Either you can call me jaded or whatnot. It's just the realities of our legal system. Okay. And look, that's how I maintain client expectations. That's how I know that if I can get you a result where I've already said that the result is 0 and I get above that, guess what? Clients are ecstatic, right? Because I've already set the expectation that I'm not going to guarantee anything.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So you have all of our information. You have my contact. You have Eric's contact. If you have any questions or you've become a victim of this situation, I'm sorry, and there's probably not much anyone can do, but still, just talk to a lawyer to verify that, because you don't know the situation, right? So they could potentially do some digging on the owners and see if they can maybe go after the owners, depending on the situation of the contract and the corporation. And I'm getting into way too much complicated law stuff. All right. Thanks, Eric.
And anything that's said in this video is not legal advice. This is for entertainment only. All right. Please consult an attorney for your specific situation. I got to add that at the end of every video.
Oh, you know what? That's absolutely true. I should have added that in the beginning of every. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Eli make sure that he adds that to the banner. And every single time we do a show from now on, Eli, go ahead and throw that banner up at the start of every meeting. Sounds good?
All right. Sounds good. And again, just to clarify again, we're a very, very litigious society here. So.
Yes. And if you want representation, this is not representation and this is not advice. But if you want it, Eric, you can pay Eric for that.
Yes.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate your time again.
No problem.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.